You are about to enter a great adventure.
This is Starting from Gorilla.
Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday, and welcome back to another episode of SFG. We are kicking off a very special series that we've been talking to you guys about for the podcast, and it's called For the Love of Wrestling. Vito and I are really excited about all the guests that we're going to have for you guys. And basically, for those of you who weren't aware of this announcement, what we're going to be doing is we're dedicating a series of episodes to interviews with friends and fans alike, exploring how and why people have fallen in love with pro wrestling. We're excited to talk with them about how their fandom has changed over the years and just the importance of pro wrestling in our lives. You know, I think all of us at one point or another really turned to wrestling for just some relief from the world around us. And I think especially in times like this where we are right now, I think it's always nice to have like a healthy outlet, some place to go that you can just kind of dive into that world and immerse yourself and kind of just forget a little bit about what's going on. So we're excited for you to join us on this little journey and kind of celebrating all these unforgettable characters and the stories and the deep connections that we all have with wrestling. So today's guest is going to be a friend of ours. Vito, you and I have known him for, 20 years now? God, we're getting old.
When you see him, it'll look like we've known him for like 50, 60 years, but it's 20, 30 years, somewhere around there.
I can only imagine what kind of shit he's talking in the green room right now. So is a friend of ours. His name is Konstantine. Like I said, we've known him since college, and all of us have been bonded together by our love of pro wrestling. It's really what kind of got us all connected in the first place, and it's something that's kept us connected throughout all these years. So we're really happy to have him on with us today. So Vito, should we keep him in there longer, or should we bring him in? Should we release the Kraken?
Let's release the Kraken. Konstantine, how are you, brother?
Hey yo, how's it going, fellas? Well, I'm deeply hurt by some of the things that I heard while I was in the green room, but you know what? We're gonna move forward amicably from here.
Good.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen. Okay. That's enough. Actually, we're really glad you can join us, but his time is up. So,
listen, me and Mikey Cash, we first started this podcast, we used to disagree all the time. Somehow it's morphed into this, like, we agree more than we disagree now. So, you know what, you can mix it up a little bit with us.
I will be sure to disagree with everything you say.
Perfect.
I really think what's happened is, you know how over time lovers begin to look alike? I think this is sort of what's happened here. We've just sort of morphed into one another when we're on this show. We're now, for some reason, we're just always on the same page. The honeymoon period has just never ended for us.
That's
You know
true.
what I like about this show? It really gives you a deep insight into the inner workings of your relationship, and that's meaningful to me.
Good.
We're glad to have you a part of it now. You're now in this, so
Good.
There is no escaping.
Alarming.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I upset you? No. Should we end this now? I'm sorry.
I you know what? I'm gonna power through.
Okay, let's power through. So, Konstantin, you were kind enough to answer some of the questions that we sent over to you. So, why don't let's start at the beginning, man. Like, how long have you been a fan of pro wrestling?
So I've more or less been a fan of pro wrestling for as long as I can remember. There's been like different spits and spurts in my life where I stopped watching, but from a very early age, I was a fan.
So when you think about that, can you remember, like, when was like the first time you had watched it? Like, do you remember that? I feel like all of us kind of have that story of when was the first exposure you had?
It's funny because it's one of my earlier memories that I have. And I was visiting my mom in Fort Myers, and I was sitting in her bedroom with her, and she was channel flipping, and she happened to come across, Monday Night Raw. And I was like, oh, hold the brakes. It was Mankind and The Undertaker, and Mankind threw a fireball into The Undertaker's face. Paul Paul Bearer was looking on, so I had no clue, no context for any of this, right? I just see a dead man, a lunatic in a mask. There's fire involved. There's a very upset, like elderly, heavyset gentleman in like mortician's makeup. So I mean, I was immediately fascinated, and it's nothing but captivating. Obviously.
So
when was? Oh, go ahead, Vito. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, so your mom was the one who introduced it to you, but then how did it really grow from there? You saw it on TV, and then what happened?
So not long after that, we moved to Massachusetts, and I was the new kid. I didn't really know anyone. I talked a little funny coming from Florida, and so it was a little difficult making friends. But one thing that was huge with everyone, especially in that age bracket, was wrestling, particularly Monday Night Raw. It was just towards the beginning of the Monday Night Wars. You had everything going on with WWF and WCW, and it really permeated especially like in that age group. So I was like 10, maybe 10, 11 years old. There wasn't at least a male child in that school that wasn't intimately following wrestling. We were divided up into little sub factions, like, oh yeah, there's NWO, and like, oh, over there, that's DX. And it was so that really fed into my interest and helped it grow from there.
Yeah, I would tell you, I remember that too, right around like 5th, 6th grade. And the thing is, you were either a WCW guy or a WWF guy. There was like no in between. I watched both, but I always,
You didn't tell anybody.
yeah, you didn't tell them that. You always lean towards one. And if you like WCW, you sucked. And if you like WWF, you were great.
And that was it. And I remember always, like, I have vivid memories of like class photos. I think I was in 4th grade, 5th grade, getting yelled at because I kept trying to do like the X sign with my hands in front of me. Like, stop it! We know what you're doing. Like, okay, sorry, my fault.
About as subtle as a freight train.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to sneak a DX into the school picture.
Yeah.
It's awesome though that it was so like. So when you first got up here, like that is kind of what helped you just like bond with the people around you. That's amazing when you really think about it, like how hard it is for a kid to come into a new place.
Yeah, and it was very difficult. So yeah, exactly, to find that common ground and be able to kind of permeate into their little cliquey groups. It was, yeah, it definitely helped me there.
Did you go to any shows when you were a kid?
Yeah. Quite frequently, especially living in Massachusetts, because we didn't have a lot of money growing up, so I would maybe catch like 1 or 2 shows a year. But the Centrum Center, what used to be the Fleet Center, now the TD Bank North Garden facility of basketball and rest. I don't know. They're going to change it again, right. So it doesn't really matter. And there's another place in Lowell where they used to do house shows, but
Centrum Center.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one in Worcester, right? There's like a bingo hall type place, and
it's like the Lowell Auditorium.
Oh, Lowell Auditorium. That's
yeah.
It. Yeah.
And that, funny enough, like that was always my favorite because it's a smaller venue, and that's where they would typically do house shows. And house shows are just a lot of fun. There's no canon to it, and it's just anarchy. And so I was lucky enough to catch at least a couple shows a year growing up.
Didn't you also catch a couple of ECW shows?
Oh yeah, that's true. So in Revere, so I lived in Revere, Mass, and they used to come constantly, and I caught 1 or 2, I think, over the years. My dad did not want me anywhere near especially that wing of professional wrestling. He wasn't a big fan of like me watching professional wrestling in the first place, not really knowing what was going on. He comes in and there's like 2 dudes in like the headbangers, right? Like 2 dudes in skirts beating the heck out of each other. They're just bleeding, and my dad's going, "Why you can't watch this? Like, why do you think you can watch this?" So ECW skewing to the more extreme, pun intended, side of things, it was difficult to wrangle my way into those shows around my father, but they would always come around to Revere and like East Boston and you know, because they didn't care. They'd play like whatever VFW hall they could set up like a ring in, and they had the worst marketing of all time, like just grassroots. There were no commercials, nobody's talking about it anywhere. They're literally like old school sticking up posters on street signs and things of that nature. So you'd be driving by. I'm like, what is this, man? This is like a man covered in like barbed wire and blood and like you know, good times.
Yeah, so let me ask you two things. Number one, I guarantee you the fact that your dad said, I don't want you watching this made you want to watch it more, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
that's like you're at that age, like, oh, you said I can't. Like, I really want to watch this more. Number one. Number two, did you go to the show in Revere? I remember there was a show for ECW that was held there. It was like the mass transit. Do you remember that, where the guy, he was like this young kid and he got put on the show like very late and they called him mass transit, and he got jabbed by New Jack and like got seriously hurt.
Yeah, I wasn't at that show, but I remember when that happened, and that did not help my pro wrestling case.
As soon as Dad got wind of that, you're like, okay.
Like,
never watching that again.
New Jack. Have you ever seen the movie New Jack? Okay. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's fine.
Parents just don't understand.
Parents just don't understand. Will Smith was right. You know? Not about everything, but about this one particular thing. Anyway,
this one particular near murder incident. Yes. This almost witnessed a homicide in the ring. Wild. So moving on from almost murder, how hell of a transition there. It's nothing but business on this show. Do you remember the first piece of merch you ever bought?
Yeah. I somehow finagled my dad into getting me the old school like DX t-shirt, like Degeneration X. And
no way.
The primary reason why I was able to get away with it was I never showed him the back of it. So like I never made him aware that there was a back section instructing people very kindly to suck it. So yeah, later on he discovered that, was none too pleased. But yeah, that was my first t-shirt, and then I had I think my first action figure was Stone Cold.
Oh hell yeah.
Oh yeah, obviously.
Of course.
I remember so speaking of that, it's pretty funny. I remember I had like 6th grade, I had every shirt that I imaginable, right? And I remember walking in, there's 2 instances. You mentioned the Headbangers. I had a Headbangers shirt, and it was the one, I don't know if you guys remember this, but it had the mouth and it had his tongue, a tongue sticking out that was pierced. It said pierce this. And I was wearing this in 6th grade and into school and not even like thinking twice about it.
Just had no idea.
Figure where he had the
no, and nobody said anything to me. The only time I got spoken to was I remember I had a rock shirt with a Brahma bull, big blue Brahma bull in the front. It was one of my favorite shirts. On the back it says, "Layeth the smacketh down," right? And one of the teachers called me into her room, and I got called into the principal's office, and said that my shirt was referencing drugs because it was like laying the smack down, right? Like she was like, that's a reference to drugs. And I go, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's about beating a guy up. And so I couldn't wear that back to school again.
What?
Yeah.
Smack?
But the pierce this shirt, cool. No problem.
Totally fine. But you leave Dwayne Johnson's heroin out of this.
Yeah, that's exactly
Can
it.
you please?
Smack it.
Wow. How popular was Dare in your school, Vito?
We had a Dare officer, just like most.
Telling you exactly what the drugs would be doing for you.
Just told him to know his role. That was the.
He knew his role. It was
I guess he did know his role.
He was laying smack down.
I mean, I think
in front of you.
I think about it today, and like none of you do. If a kid walked into a shirt with a pierce this, it would be Dunzo right away. Like you would minute they walked in, right away, gone. Flip it inside out.
Turn it inside out. Yeah, exactly. Turn it inside out. Go home.
Cancel that shirt. That's what you're gonna do. Oh my god. So, all right, you bought that shirt. I have to ask you, how did you buy it? Did you buy it at the show, or did you do like the old WWF magazine where when you wanted to buy it, you had to like write down the order, like the item number, the size, mail a check away, and then hope it gets there?
I grabbed it at a show because they had it up on display, right, like pinned, so you couldn't see the back of it. I, being fully aware of what the back of this shirt said, had to have it. DX number 1, suck it number 2. Like, why wouldn't I want a suck it shirt? But Dad couldn't see the back, so I played the numbers. I was like, can I get that? Like that one there? I'm going like, whatever you do, brother. Like when you take that and bag it, like don't turn it around, and we'll get out of here clean.
Mikey, that's a really good point. I didn't even think about that. Like you couldn't just go on WWE.com and buy a shirt. It's like very similar to like a concert nowadays. Like you can go to the concert and get the merch, but you can't really buy the merch online. Like if you go to a show in Boston, right? You get the Boston shirt. You can't buy that online. It makes it like way more valuable. I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
It's a really good point.
So archaic, and you're just hoping that the mail system delivered on that promise to get you that DX shirt.
You're like dependent on the USPS twice. Like you got to bring this there, and then you got to bring the stuff back to me.
Right. I'm trusting that you can take my money and get it over there, and then trusting that you can also bring the product to me. Please, for the love of God.
Oh, that's a maybe on both ends.
It was a maybe on both ends. There was only one instance where I didn't get the shirt, but that's a story for another time. Let's get back to you, Konstantine. So you're buying merch. You're fully immersed in this.
Right.
When did you start to notice that like your taste started to change within wrestling? Was it anything specific, like storylines, characters, like what, or maybe just where you were in life? Like what started to like, when did you notice that?
So I think probably in my like mid-20s, I had started to kind of drift away from wrestling. Growing up, I had always watched WWF, WWE, and WCW while I could, but I was never really exposed to much beyond that. And at that time, I felt kind of alienated by WWE's product. I felt like this was kind of during the PG push, and they were starting to or not even starting to, but like just heavier marketing to kids. And I understand like that from a business standpoint, but it wasn't hitting for me in the same way. And of course at that point, like a lot of the stars that I grew up with were starting to cycle out. You were seeing the Undertaker like once a year. Sean was gone most of the time. Sometimes he would come back, and then of course he did come back for that tail run. But so a lot of the things that I was attached to nostalgia wise were kind of starting to drift away, and so did I. It was, certain, I guess, more carny type things that Vince would start to push from now and then now and then. So like Hornswoggle, Eugene, that whole all of it basically, like Snitsky with the yellow teeth. You know what I mean? This like campy type stuff. It just wasn't for me as much.
Was it hard for you to sort of watch it like evolve in that way? Like it's I would imagine, and I think we all sort of felt this, is that this weird like you're disappointed, you're also kind of sad by it because it's something that you really love, and it's something you had loved for so long, and now you just don't recognize it.
Yeah, it is. It's disheartening. But I kind of saw it at the time, not thinking anything was going to change, because Vince McMahon is going to live forever, and he's going to run WWE until like the end of time, and that's just the way that things were going to go. So I just kind of took it as part of getting older. Like, okay, I get it. Like, I'm getting older. This is no longer like a thing that's meant for me, and that sucks. But at least kids are enjoying it. But it just wasn't. I don't know. Yeah, it wasn't the thing that I remembered falling in love with. And that's, yeah, that was tough to deal with. Um, because it was such a big part of my life, and I obviously still have awareness that it exists, and the stuff that I see is cringy when I see it. It's tough, but again, like that's just my personal opinion. I'm sure there's
Yeah.
people that love
No,
that.
see, I think you're in the boat of a lot of people. I think we were that way too. I on top of that, I will also tell you, we went to the same college for a couple of years, and you couldn't watch it. Like we didn't get cable in our rooms, so you
Doesn't exist.
couldn't watch it. You couldn't watch it. So
Oh, you couldn't
that was because there was no cable in our rooms, so
have
you
cable.
couldn't. There was no internet to stream it. Like we
Newman
couldn't
had
do any of
cable.
that.
That's a
So
whole nother.
Yeah.
yeah.
A few people had cable, but
Yeah.
it was through nefarious means.
So
You know?
anyways, so getting back to the point, like I agree with you. I think myself and Mikey were in the same boat. And then here's the thing though, you would always get sucked back in when they did like an old school Raw or something like that. And then you maybe tried to watch it again, and then you get frustrated because it was
You're like,
awful. And then a couple months go by, and then you get another old school Raw. They say, hey, Stone Cold's coming back, and you watch the whole thing. Yeah. So honestly, it's the reason we started this podcast. So we agree with you 100%.
Oh, well, good. My people.
Right. We're bonded by this. While you were like, call it sabbatical from it, did you stay connected at all? Like, were you reading like the dirt sheets, that kind of thing, or like how did you sort of like stay somewhat like in the peripheries of it?
So yeah, so in that period, like my early to mid 20s, probably that was more or less the only way that I would keep up with anything, if at all, is I would get on like WrestleView or whatever and watch like the recaps. Like where I would watch WrestleMania in general, but yeah, just kind of getting just the match results and not even really following along with like what's happening storyline wise was kind of my deal for a very long time. And yeah, so that was kind of hard because I'm like,
Yeah.
you're not getting, I don't know. I don't know. You're still very detached. It's almost like Facebook creeping on your ex. It's like,
That's such a good way to put it.
I'm like, oh, what's she doing? Oh, good. She's having a good time. I'm not having a good time. Great.
That's exactly what it is. This is exactly what it is. I don't think anyone's ever more succinctly described that whole experience than that. It's amazing. But like, I what do you think about like dirt sheets now? Because I feel like I used to do it for that because I just kind of wanted to know what was going on. Like, do you think like we had too much access to like the backstage stuff, and that like did that like ruin it? Because I feel like it ruined it for me sometimes. Like I kind of hated how I became as a fan.
So I got in real deep to the point where I was like subscribing to like SRS, Sean Ross Sapp, like subscribe to his like thing so that I get like the news first. And this was like probably right up until like the COVID era, where I'm like, yeah, give me all the information. I want to know like this, that, and the other thing. And I got to a point where I was like, you know what? Maybe I don't. Because like sometimes the backstage politics, like I find upsetting, and like I just don't want to. Sometimes I just don't want to know. So I found myself really pulling way back to the point where I don't really watch the dirt sheets anymore. I'll read like, if my Apple News feed has a wrestling article or whatever, I'll get in there and read it. But like I don't find myself searching out dirt sheets to find out, inside information or this, that. It's just, I'd rather not know how this sausage is made. Just entertain me, boys.
I think that's a good. I really appreciate that because I think a lot of us, and I got to include myself in this. Like I said, I hated sort of how I became as a fan, and I think maybe all of us at one point were those smart marks that people so lovingly describe fans as, where like we just tried to be too in the know, and I don't know what we were trying to prove at the time. Like maybe I just wanted to show that I knew so much about wrestling, but
yeah,
I feel like it just made me kind of an asshole, and I kind of hated it. Like I would hate watch it because I knew what was going on backstage, and I'm like,
yeah,
it's almost like when you watch a movie after looking at all like everything that happened backstage during the making of it, and you're like, I'm just kind of ruining like what's supposed to just be presented, you know?
exactly.
See,
And,
I'm gonna go ahead and say I disagree, guys. Like I
all
want
right, mute him. He's going in the green room.
Give me all the tea. Give me all the tea. I want it all. And I'll tell you why I want it all. And I think you're right to some degree. There are definitely times where it spoils things. But if WWE's smart and you see them doing it now, right? Look at the situation with Drew McIntyre and LA Knight, right? I'm so much more invested in that because of the whole thing with Drew McIntyre, and it all leaked online. And if you can use that to your advantage, right? Yeah, fine. I'm a mark. I don't care. Mark me all you want. I really don't care. I enjoy it. I like the tea. Bring it on.
So like I specifically that situation had the exact opposite impact on me. I found it completely annoying. I was like, wow, Drew, you're being annoying. Like, can you stop?
And it made you hate him more, though. It made you not like him as much.
Not as a heel, you know what I mean? Not like in a heelish way, more in a like, dude, just shut up and do your job kind of a way. Because like you're a grown man. This is the second time you've thrown a temper tantrum and walked out on your job. Like any other job, like this is unacceptable behavior. But like because he's an entertainer, it's fine. And then it politics into something better. I'm like, then get Logan Paul out of the ring. If you know what I mean, like if that's the issue, because I don't think even watching it back, like I don't think LA Knight did anything wrong. Just watching it back, even in the moment, you know what I mean? Like it was, his thing with Logan Paul was the more interesting story. Like I understand that they were trying to set up Drew McIntyre and Priest leading into WrestleMania, which is funny because everybody reacted negatively to that, and now they've seemingly changed that storyline. But that doesn't mean that like one thing should overshadow the other. I don't know. It should have probably been organized better to like make room for both of those moments without anybody feeling stepped on. It did end up looking awkward the way that McIntyre was eliminated, but I don't think I'd put that down to Knight, like walk in the back and go like somebody had to get their moves in, like who, where, when, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, but I get it. I see where it could be interesting. So I guess it's like different strokes for different folks. You know what I mean?
Well, this isn't the first time that there is a snafu like that in a elimination kind of match. I mean, look all the way back to when Stone Cold was eliminated by accident.
Everything happened.
He wasn't. I mean, he shares that story, and you know, you can sort of look back on it and kind of laugh about it, right? When he talks about it, there's a lot of humor in it to say, well, like I'm looking at Sean, like, what do you want me to do? I accidentally fell out of the ring. I don't know what to do. So
that's it.
So I think sometimes there's just when you're doing something like that, and also the way they were telling that story was way different. The way they structured that Royal Rumble this year was much different than the way they've done it before. I think there was a lot more intentionality to a lot of the spots that they had, and it wasn't just this like, you know, fest of a bunch of guys in there and it's a shit show. I think it was highly coordinated, and I think because of that you had a lot of moving parts. Things were you were bound to have some wires crossed there, and that was unfortunately maybe a situation where that happened. But to the point about the dirt sheets, because I want to get back to that for a second. Do you think that, because this is my view on it, and me and Vito have talked about it on here, do you think that nowadays those stories that you see leaked by these dirt sheets are actually more in service of the storyline, where they're actually sort of part of it more than they aren't at this point, where it's sort of like, it's not really backstage stuff anymore. It's more like they're sort of also continuing the narrative to get people engaged in it and to watch the show.
And no one will ever credit them for this, probably besides themselves, but that's the Young Bucks. Like, I'm sorry. That's being the elite. So the way that they were able to incorporate their YouTube show and create like backstage storylines to enhance like the on-screen product is that idea essentially. And now you see exactly what you're talking about. You see dirt sheet writers, as it were, being incorporated and or background stories being quote unquote leaked by these companies to create, one thing or another. So, and it's interesting because you don't really know. So like,
Yeah.
the Drew McIntyre thing. Did Drew McIntyre really like have a fit and run out, or was that just like, hey, this looked awkward, blah blah blah. They don't seem super happy about the priest thing. What can we make out of this?
I agree with you.
I
agree with you. That was my point. Is like, that's why I like the T. You know what? If you can't
Yeah.
get it over, if you can't get it, not everybody can do a great job of getting a storyline across on television, right? And things morph and things change. And I think, this is one area where you can actually, pull the wool over the fan's face, especially guys like me who read that stuff, or you like, yeah, sure. Like I said, I'm a mark because I'll read it and think it's true. And I also think, you look at a guy like Dave Meltzer, and he could be the best heel going because everybody hates Dave Meltzer in wrestling.
Poor Dave.
Poor Dave.
He's doing okay.
He's doing just fine.
Yeah.
Some of that is self-inflicted wounds. So my empathy only goes so far.
Yeah,
he loves it.
But talking about evolution here and how things have evolved, what do you think brought you out of that low point you had with your fandom? Like, was there anything in particular that started to like really turn it around for you?
Yeah, actually. So I left. So I was probably 25, and I had moved out of Massachusetts to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. That's when I started in TV. And I was working in Master Control at a local Fox affiliate there in Myrtle. And I started talking to one of their like editors slash like camera ops slash production assistant slash everything. His name was Eric. Come to find out, Eric was a big wrestling fan, and I was still kind of in that period, that bubble period, where I was just kind of reading the dirt sheets. Sometimes I'd catch WrestleMania, depending on what went on, only to be disappointed by like a 5-hour show. And like I said, come to find out, Eric's a huge wrestling fan, but not just WWE. He was a global wrestling fan. The first one of these that I had ever encountered, actually. So he watched New Japan. He watched Ring of Honor. He would watch AAA and what's the other one in Mexico? Anyway, MLL, right? He would stay up like. So he would show up to work and he's like, I'm like, hey, how you doing? He's like, I haven't slept. I'm like, why? He's like, the G1. I'm like, really, dude? Like for a week straight, you're going to stay up like all night long watching the G1? He's like, you better believe it. And I had never been exposed to this corner of the wrestling world. Like I said, I had grown up very traditional, watching WWE, watching WCW, a little TNA here and there, because Comcast for some reason put their old episodes on demand when they first started their on demand service. So that, but other than that, I had never seen any of these guys like Shinsuke Nakamura, right? AJ Styles at the time. So the first Wrestle Kingdom I watched was AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura right before he made the jump to WWE, and it's still one of the best matches I've ever seen. So I came to realize that there's this whole wealth of wrestling out there that's not WWE for good and bad. There's negatives to it all too, but this style of wrestling, like strong style and British strong style and like high speed lucha and all of this madness, and it just kind of opened my eyes, and I was just hooked. And that was my first exposure to the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, the Bullet Club, right, in general. And that's it ended up being like one of my favorite like times in like my wrestling life.
Did you, when you started seeing the Bullet Club, were you watching it when Balor was a part of it at the time, or when he was Prince Devitt?
So I started getting into so he had just, where was he? Yeah,
Maybe he
it was
just
towards the
left to go to
end of
NXT.
it was towards the end of his run.
Yeah.
When I first got involved with it. So I watched him get jumped out and make the jump to WWE, and then I watched AJ, and then I watched AJ get jumped out by Kenny Omega, right? And then I kind of branched off, started watching ROH too because of the Young Bucks, and that's when I saw Adam Cole. They had their super click, right?
Right.
And still, when I still watch it on YouTube. One of the coolest like ending show angles was Bullet Club turning on Adam Cole, and the villain Marty Scurll, who's unfortunately a rapist now. Comes out of the dark, and then they just super kick everyone and their mother. Like they super kick the announcers, they super kick the refs, like all the security, and like legitimately like 13 minutes of super kicking everyone and their mother. And then they did that holding up Adam with the umbrella, and they had t-shirts of that. So I was heavily invested into the the Bullet Club stuff for a very long time, and so this is another thing that I was disappointed with the way the WWE handled, right? Super excited, like, oh, they got AJ Styles, fantastic. Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, like phenomenal. That Finn Balor's already here.
Yeah.
We're going to do a Bullet Club storyline. And what do I get? I get the club.
I know. What is Vito? You so eloquently describe it as a wet fart.
It is. I mean, think about it though. Like if you really think about it, like that era was them. They would force things down your throat, and then again, like it's the same thing they did with like the Viking Raiders, right? What did they call them? Instead of calling them just the War Raiders. Yeah. If they just called them the War Raiders, which everyone loved chanting the war, right? When they came out, it was like what put them over, and now they can't even do that.
Now at least it's their finisher, right? And I get the whole War Machine thing, right? Because there was that MMA fighter War Machine that he beat up, is like, not to minimize, really beat the ever-loving hell out of his like porn star girlfriend. So I understand the like negative association, but it was just like, and there's so many just name-based things that are weird like that, like name-related choices. I've made peace with Gunter at this point, but when they made that decision, I was like, this man is wrestled all over the world. Everybody knows him as Walter. Like why mess with it? Now I'm curious what they're going to do with Ricky Starks, but
Let's hope he just stays as Ricky Starks. But
they didn't name it. That's what bugged me, is they didn't say his name at all. Like the crowd chanted it, but no one said his name, and I went, he's gonna be like fucking like Jimmy Marks or something, and it's gonna be very upsetting.
I'm gonna call it like Starks Man or something like that.
Right? Like, why did you need to change that twice?
Yeah. Stupid. What I will say is this though, through that whole journey you had, right? Where do you stand now with all of this? Because I can tell you again, we felt the same exact way. And I will tell you, I feel like over the last few years, it has gotten better. It's not perfect, but I feel like it has gotten better and it's exciting. I feel a lot less let down. How has that changed for you?
So I had gone into another one of my lulls, not where I wasn't watching, but I wasn't watching WWE really at all. I would watch again WrestleMania, I'd catch the recaps, but like when I tune into the show, they're feeding Roman Reigns dog food, and I'm just good. You know what I mean? I was just good. And that was right when AEW came along. So I got entirely invested in AEW, all in. Saw every episode of Dynamite, like Rampage, for years, and that was my primary focus. And then and this is my own fault, because so I personally, I don't know if any other fans did this, but I got really emotionally invested in the idea of All Elite Wrestling, not just what it was as another company in this, but like the concept. Like you're gonna make wrestling better. You're gonna make it better for the talent and actually bring competition and improve things. And so when again this kind of goes back to our backstage politics conversation. When the backstage politics started rearing its ugly head, and I come to find out that like Cody's got problems with the Young Bucks. Cody's got problems, you know what I mean? Kenny's got whatever, like this, that, and the other thing. And then Cody leaves. That I was genuinely upset. Like genuinely upset. Upset with him, upset with AEW, like didn't watch him at Mania. I forget what's his re-debut, I guess. Was really like genuinely upset about that. And funny enough, and I went through like a bad breakup, and I was kind of like bumming, and I wasn't like following wrestling in general as much. And funny enough, right around that time is when Vince gets removed, and all of a sudden, the game is our chief content officer, right? CCO, and things, like you said, Vito, started to get better. Not always perfect. There's stuff that I roll my eyes at, but a lot better. Just in general, show to show better. Also better long-term storytelling. I think the booking is better. Just in general, like I don't think there's a facet of the current product that hasn't been like visibly improved by that move. Personally. So I did find myself now all of a sudden I'm watching. So Raw was still kind of tough for me for a while because that bitch is 3 hours and it wasn't, not everything was clicking there, but like SmackDown became religion. Like I would watch SmackDown, acknowledge my tribal chief, and then I wasn't watching too much Dynamite. It's only been, oh yeah, I was pissed about the whole Punk situation too. And anyway, so it's only been the last like probably a month or two that I've started watching Dynamite again. And kind of getting back into that product, because I mean I do love the product. I do love everybody that's over there. I think that some of their writing choices have been painful, but it's nice to have a wealth of options out here.
I would agree with that, and I think Mikey Cash always says this. It's always a roller coaster of emotions, right? It ebbs and flows, and there's always ups, there's always downs. But I think from what I'm hearing from you is you're kind of in the same boat we are. There's a lot more hope for the future here, right? Like that's how I'm looking at it. And I will agree with you. I think a lot of this has to do with AEW coming in the fold. You're right. There's other promotions out there that people just aren't aware of, that they don't see a lot of on TV.
And it's not very accessible. Some of the
no,
time.
It's not. And I would also tell you,
not.
No, 100%. And I would also tell you a big piece of this is Triple H, right? Like you can see the visible difference there. So I think we're all on the same page, and I think your story resonates with a lot of other people's, and I think it's right in line with ours. Would you agree, Mikey?
I would. And to sort of resonate with something you said earlier when you talked about when you were getting like so invested in AEW, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but did it make you a bit more tribal again? Like I feel like that was a thing. Like when you talked about WCW and WWF, how that used to be, it was like tribalism. You were either one or the other. And I feel like when AEW was introduced, like it reignited a part of that in some of us older fans, and even in the newer fans that they garnered from their onset. Like, do you feel like that was something that happened?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, for sure. It was like the rival team, you know what I mean? At that point, it really did feel that way. And I like I said, I got mad at Cody for going back.
Yeah.
To finish the story, right? It's a great thing. Good for him. Made all kinds of money. He deserves to be the top guy. And I was mad at him like I know him. Like I was like, I How dare you? But then, listening to the guys in the back do interviews and stuff like that, and when they talk about the other company, one side or the other, because I've heard wrestlers in both companies. They go, no, like, we don't feel that way. We have friends over there. Like, we have people that we worked with, like people that we love, like sometimes people that we're married to.
Right.
We don't want them to fail. It doesn't behoove anyone for the other company to fail, because we saw what it was like when there was only one major.
Yeah.
Right. So I did kind of fall back into that trap for a while, but I found my way. Like, everything. Like, I got into I think it's funny now that they're kind of in the same storyline, but even little things like Tama Tonga and Roman Reigns got into like a Twitter beef.
Right.
And you had Tama Tonga doing the like fist cocking thing. And I was hype.
Yeah.
But it's not healthy. You know what I mean? It's not good for really anything. It's not good for the fandom. It's toxic as hell. And
exactly.
It's not good for wrestling business in general, because there's a lot of good wrestling out here that deserves to be supported, and the more the merrier in terms of the consumer.
Yeah, absolutely. So now that we're kind of in the present day for you, like, what's some of the favorite things that you're watching right now?
So right now, the Bloodline stuff, obviously. All in on the Bloodline stuff. I'm curious to see what they're doing with the the women's mid-card titles. And I'm not like super duper pumped with what's going on there, but I'm really into the Kevin Owens stuff. People might have, I didn't read what the reactions to everything going on with KO online are, but I really dug Saturday Night Main Event. Him stealing the Winged Eagle Championship and carrying it around for weeks and like over his shoulder. That had a very old school vibe to me. It reminded me of something like you remember when like Stone Cold stole the belt and like threw it in the river.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that. So I was super into that. I like those kinds of things. I'm a really big fan of Swerve, Strickland. I think that sucker is probably one of their better pickups. His in-ring work, like his mic work, like everything. Big fan. Also FTR, best tag team in the world. Damian Priest too. I'm glad to see. So he's one of the guys that I was exposed to in my like world tour era as Punishment Martinez once upon a time. Both types, like ROH and Lucha Underground, I think. So I'm really glad to see him, because that guy, he does, and I know that he trains with the Undertaker and everything, but he really does remind me. He has that build and that like surprising athleticism for a gigantic man. Luchasaurus is another one that reminds me of the Undertaker, like a similar. Like, you're 7 feet tall. What the fuck are you dancing on the ropes for? Like, why are you doing that? You're scaring the kids.
Good old Luchasaurus. Or what was he going by? Killswitch now?
I don't want to talk about it.
Since okay, moving on. So okay, a couple more. I know we've been keeping you here for a long time, but it's just been so much fun to talk about this. So we talk about how much wrestling has meant to us, and seeing where it's at now is so encouraging, right? Like when you see that you got Pat McAfee and the mainstream attention that it's getting, it really is sort of, I think for us, just reinforcing what we all already knew, is that wrestling is everywhere, and now people finally get to see that.
And I love Pat for that. Like,
isn't that amazing?
I really love Pat for that. Like, this dude had no reason to get involved in professional wrestling. Like, he was doing just fine. Super successful podcast. Obviously, former NFL player, goes without saying. Was enough of a fan to be like, hey, I want to get involved in this. And he's good at it. Like
Real
that's
good.
the best part. Like he
Yeah.
he can work in the ring, and as an announcer, I see him bring like other people to life. I've seen him bring more life out of Michael Cole the last few years. He's
Oh.
got this guy yeeting. He's got Michael Cole on the announce desk yeeting every week for SmackDown.
Vince would have had a pulmonary embolism if
Oh
Michael
my
Cole
God.
was on there while
There's
he
no
was
way he
backstage.
can watch this. Like, there's no way he can watch this. Every time he sees Michael Cole have fun, he must just like, it's like a Red Hulk situation. Down.
So, I mean, you're seeing how much of a broader impact wrestling is having on just like the culture. It's just amazing to see. Like, what do you think about that? Just like what wrestling sort of means to like popular culture and just like where it is in the mainstream. Like, how is that?
It makes me happy. Like I when I see unrelated famous people, throwing up like the girl from High School Musical, what the heck is her name?
Vanessa Hudgens.
Vanessa Hudgens, right?
Yeah.
She's got wrestling t-shirts on Instagram. I saw the other day an old picture of Sabrina Carpenter with a Young Bucks t-shirt on. Megan Thee Stallion, musicians, or George Kittle, other athletes. Mm-hmm. So when I see these people on these large stages, that they also have this love for this thing enough to where they want to make reference to it, or maybe even get involved in the product. Like it warms me. Cause I'm like, it just makes me feel like understood, I guess, like other people get it. Like I'm not the weirdo in my mom's basement. People get that, wrestling is better than whatever you love. Like it's just
it's a weird form of validation, right? And the fact that it's in this renaissance period, I've heard like Cody's talked about it, but I do feel like that's a great word to describe it. It's sort of this renaissance. People are really into it. When you're at the shows, even the smaller venues, and you're at an NXT event, people are really into it again. It just feels so great.
Curse words again. Love it.
It's just amazing. And so when you think about all these new fans that are coming into this, like what advice would you give to someone who's sort of just starting to enter this world?
Enjoy the ride. Honestly, like enjoy the ride. Try not to like get overly critical. I would say understand, especially for things like Monday Night Raw, that it's 3 hours. It is a variety show.
Mm-hmm.
So, not everything is going to be your cup of tea, but don't let it discourage you. So try to ignore the chat. Also, like, don't let people tell you what to like. So try to ignore the chatter, like what you like, and enjoy it, and don't let the internet or anybody else ruin it for you.
I would also say go back and watch some of the old stuff too. Like you have when I wanted to watch some of the old, when I watched some of the old stuff, I'd have to go and buy a VHS and put it in. It's so much easier at your fingertips now. You can argue that you hate Peacock and you miss the network and all that stuff, but it's still a lot easier. It's still a lot easier. You can go back and watch all the old stuff.
You had to like mail away for VHS tapes. You get into like one of Tony Khan's chat rooms back in the day.
Yep. Coliseum home video.
So last question for you, Con. If you were going to recommend one match to someone to help them understand why you love wrestling, what match would it be?
Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, WrestleMania. That match, especially if you have any understanding of like the context, and you can watch that without getting chills, like you might not be like a human person. It gets me every time, even when I see clips of it. That like he's tuning up the band, and Rick turns around and just looks at him like Old Yeller, right? Like, come on, put me down. Those 5 words. I'm sorry, I love you, right? And whap. I just gets me. That whole show, actually, that whole WrestleMania is incredible from top to bottom.
I have a special connection with you from that show because I believe we were there together at it's now defunct Good Times Emporium in Somerville, because it was one of the blast zones that they used to have where you could go and watch pay-per-views.
You remember that too. I referenced that in our little like pre-interview, but I never know if anybody's going to know. I know you know, but I never know if it. I think they closed it, right? Yeah, it is.
It's like a Home Depot now.
It was a very seedy place. Like looking back, I was like, I get why my dad never wanted to drop me off here late at night for a wrestling show, but it was incredible. Like the venue was incredible, and it was as close to being at the live show as you can get, because you have all these like diehard wrestling fans yelling just like we were there, and that was a special
cool
show. It really
was a cool show. It was a great show. Wow. Well, I mean, Connor, we can't thank you enough for being here, man. This has been so much fun, just sort of catching up with you too, because we haven't had the ability to like have a conversation like this except over text. So this is just I'm just thrilled to have this opportunity to talk with you. Like,
it's been great being with you guys, and I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. So listen, I think we're going to have you on again at some point. So if you're willing, we're willing to have you back on, man.
I'd be happy to anytime, you guys. It's really been a pleasure. Like I've enjoyed it a lot.
All right. Well, hey man, take care of yourself. We'll be talking. We'll be keeping in touch. I'll just be texting you after this, and keep you updated when we get this all up and running for everyone, so everyone can hear your journey in pro wrestling. So,
thank you, fellas. I appreciate it. Take care.
Right. See you, Con.
That was great.
All right. Yeah, lots of fun. Always good. I haven't seen the Con Man in some time, and it's good to catch up. And it's always interesting. I know this whole series was kind of your idea, and very cool. Never really thought about it from the perspective of like how somebody evolved, but it's interesting. I'm curious to see if we have some other people on here too, like how their situation has evolved, because his was very similar to ours, right?
Yeah.
Like I would say it's like right in line with how we did things, and very interesting.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear more stories about this, because I feel like everyone's got like, Khan's was very sort of, I think, parallel to ours, but I'm really looking forward to talking with other folks who it was way different, like where did they start? Or maybe they were watching way earlier. And so like, how did it evolve even then to see like pre-Attitude Era, post-Attitude, I don't know. I feel like this is just a really cool series for us to do, and just to get to know people. And I think it deepens our own connections to wrestling, because you get this ability to really reflect on just how wrestling is sort of like been along for the ride for us in our lives. It's just very, very cool to see.
We'll have to get some people, because like we've had Vinny Berry on, right? And I think we've talked about it when we've had him. He's from a different era, right?
I'd love to get his point of view.
Right. We've kind of sort of done that. We haven't gone into depth like this, but maybe we should, because I think he would have a different perspective because of the wrestling he likes. And then we'll have to try and find someone who's a little bit younger too, that could come on and talk about it.
Come on.
I mean, Mikey, we're not young.
I know. We even got to change the description on our Instagram. Like, we're not
I know.
Now we're late 30s.
Hit the late 30s, almost early 40s.
Verbiage.
Yeah.
But we hope everybody enjoys this first episode. What hopefully will be more episodes like this coming down the line. And we had so much fun putting this together, and really hope you guys enjoyed the conversation, and maybe causes you to think about your own journey with wrestling and the connection you have to it and how that's changed. And if it causes you to do so, feel free, comments. We'd love to hear about what your story is with your connection with wrestling. It brings us all together. So we hope everybody enjoys their President's Day weekend. Stay cool and keep on strutting, jabronis.